Well, hello guys. So we will proceed to our last lesson for the coverage for the first examination. So I will share screen to you the presentation for the lesson 3. So just run through about this one. So I already gave you this PowerPoint presentation last week. So we are done on the introduction of the environmental science and then the environmental system. So now we will proceed to the biochemical cycle. So the inorganic compounds, though, absorb the more than humans, but nevertheless enter the atmosphere, the oceans, and even the rocks. So the biogeochemical cycle refers to the accumulated chemicals processes of both the biological and the geological worlds. Every chemical has its own unique cycle, but in all cycles, they are some things in common. So when we say reservoirs, those are those process areas where the significant quantities of the product are stored for long periods of a time. So it is a storage that could be stored for long periods of time. Just like for example, in the water reservoir, diba, there is what we call as dam. So this is an storage that would be used into the other time by humans. But if will overflow, so just like for example, there is a heavy rain or a typhoon, so it will be passed out through the environment because it will full naman yung sa storage or lalagyan ng reservoir. So for contrast, the chemical is kept in trading reservoirs for only a short time. Unlike those chemicals, so there is an expiration or there should be a trading that it would the time is very short because it could cause some toxic chemicals or harmful substances among the or in the environment. So the amount of time that is a chemical is kept in an exchange tank or a reservoir is called its time of the residence. The seas are a reservoir of water while a cloud is a stream of trade. So those are example of the reservoir. So since as the oceans or the seas or these bodies of water is the largest environment in our planet. It comprises 80% of the um within the planet. But there are some studies among researchers that because of this climate change or this global warming, so this climate change, so the result is that, like for example, in the Antarctica, so the ice are melting now. So there could be possibility that on the next future, so there would be a sea level rise because of those pagmelt nga sa mga ice glaciers doon. So it could be the next future, so we could be a mutant na mostly sa ating mga bahay or sa ating environment sa labas ng bahay is there would be a lot of water or more water na. So for the biogeochemical cycles from the bio, that means life. So there's an interaction or the cycle within living forms or living organisms such as these animals, these cows or these herbivores that eat the grasses. And then the geo, that means land. So there's a cycle between these living organisms and its land. So the first process or the cycle is the water cycle. So it is the journey that water follows in its various states: air, the liquid, soil as it passes through the ocean, atmosphere, groundwater, and then the lakes and etc. So we have here some processes in the water cycle. So the first one is the evaporation. So the sun supplies the energy in the water cycle, which drives this evaporation. Where whether from ocean surface or from the treetops, so the reverse phase in which liquid water is gaseous is evaporation. Though the condensation of vapor taking gravity takes over and the water as pulled to the ground. And then this gravity continues to operate either pulling the water or underground or across the its surface. Next is the transpiration. So it happens among plants. So the biochemical phenomenon often occurring in the daytime. So during an the daytime or having its sun. So the water inside the plants is transferred to the atmosphere as a water vapor. Through this numerous individual living openings. So the one who is capable in this among plants are those inside the leaves or the chlorophyll or the inside the cell, the chloroplast in the plants. The third one is the condensation, the process by which water vapor changes its physical state from a vapor, so most commonly to a liquid. So this water vapor condenses into a particles that are tiny into the air to form a dew, fog, or a cloud. Next is the precipitation. It happens naman as the water condenses into the atmosphere from a gaseous state and falls to the earth. So this cycle that occurs in any in all forms of water, particles or all from the atmosphere and reach the ground. So here is a picture of the water cycle. So evaporation happens on the clouds. So we are already common naman ito since elementary it was already discussed, right? So just a reviews and then precipitation, there's sort of its rain and then it will evaporate and then it will go again into the condensation. And some parts of the evaporation also happens in the ocean. So we have here some different types of this water cycle. Next is the carbon cycle. So the plants obtain this carbon dioxide from the air. So that is why it is very important to really have these plants because they are the one who gets or who inhale this carbon dioxide. So there is some study that plants is very important in the carbon cycle, just like in the respiration in our lungs. So we consume the oxygen and then take up the carbon dioxide. Also, as what I have discussed a while ago, the photosynthesis. So we have here the picture of the carbon cycle. Then for the oxygen cycle, so as discussed from the previously, same opposite side of the carbon cycle. So oxygen cycle, we inhale this oxygen and then the carbon dioxide will be in the among plants. So we get oxygen from the plants through the process of photosynthesis. And then the nitrogen cycle also is the last part in the food chain or the food web. So the sequence that interconverted, including this nitrogen fixation and decomposition in its compound. So it also happens among plants. So just like for example, those legumes. So on their roots, they contain this nitrogenous fixation that could also capable for them to survive or for the process of the photosynthesis. So unique, they are unique features among other um, plants. So just like here on this picture, so other that contains nitrogen, the ammonia or those peas or urine could also be used as a fertilizer among plants. Then the phosphorus cycle from the word phosphorus, the phosphate or the phosphorus atom which has four atoms on the oxygen can also be used in our DNA, the deoxyribonucleic acid or the ribonucleic acid molecule. So it has sugar, the deoxyribose or the ribose sugar, and then the phosphate and nitrogenous bases. So you have here the phosphorus cycle. It also happens on the geochemical part or the land and also in the water. So the phosphate content in the geochemical cycle in the environment. Okay, that's a wrap for the last lesson. So this evening 5:30 to 6:30 is our first exam. So just a review about this topic. So thank you guys. Have a good day. See you later.